All right, so I'm sure you guys have all seen my face around the conference. I'm Solomon. I work on product and engineering at the Solana Foundation, and I'm here to present a set of talks or a set of slides for a team that I've worked with quite closely named Overclock. So Overclock is a validator in the Solana ecosystem who I've worked with quite closely on building out this thing called Mithril, which is a full node client or a verifying node that allows you to self-verify your own transactions. We sort of call it the path to self-verification. I have not put any lines of codes on this. This is mainly Sean, who's a developer as part of Overclock, alongside a few other developers that have helped him out. So historically, the detractors or some of our friends in some other ecosystems typically would say that Solana is centralized because the node requirements are way too high for people who just want to be profitable. Historically, nodes for consensus nodes or verifying nodes run you about 24 cores and greater than 256 gigs of RAM. If you want to run an RPC non-voting node, it's like way higher than that, especially for secondary indexes. And a lot of people, institutions, individuals that want sovereignty over self-verification or to verify their own transactions don't have the capabilities to have data centers or bare metal nodes that they can sort of run these nodes on. I've talked to teams that are large institutions in Southeast Asia or the APAC region that basically want to be able to verify their own transactions if they want to interact with Sol. And with that, we either recommend running a full node or either running an RPC for certain instances. And if you want to run a full node on AWS, the egress costs cost a ton. So then we recommend teams to go do bare metal on teams like Latitude or Cherry servers. But in many cases, you lose a lot of the VPC security groups and things like that when you leave AWS. So then some of these teams are like, OK, I'll wait until it's a bit lower. For individuals, what happens is they just don't self-verify nodes, right? You trust RPCs. You trust other providers to give you the current state of the world, and there's nothing else you can do beyond that. So that's why we sort of went through this process of trying to build a self-verifying node or a node that can run on commodity hardware. The verifying node is mostly important because light clients are quite hard. Historically, we had this thing called the epoch account hash and the account delta hash, but now we have this thing called the lattice hash, which is a different way for you to get the current account state within a block. And so it's actually very hard to run a light client. We've had teams like TinyDancer try and some others that try, but it's very hard. And with the lattice hash update, you actually don't get nil account closes, so you actually don't get the current state of the world for new accounts. And then so people ask, right, is self-verification even possible, right? Like, you're just trusting other people to give you data. You can't do anything yourself. That's why we went through this process to try to build this out. So enter Mithril. So Mithril is a verifying full node. It's not a light node. It's not a light client. It has basically everything for all programs, everything on the SPL side, all syscalls, all sysvars, like literally everything. It just does not participate in gossip today. The way that it receives account data from the world is just through getting confirmed blocks from different RPCs and then replaying that block itself. It's also a little easier because it's in Go. Most people here, I assume, write Rust, but Go is a very simple language used in the traditional Web 2 world. It was born at Google, and it's just probably one of the only easily readable code bases that do take advantage of everything that exists in Agave and now FireDancer, but you can just have like your AI LLM go like read it, and you'll be fine. Blocks are fully executed, and it really reduces the costs to verify, which is the whole point of this thing in the first place. And it simplifies the requirements because it does not participate in gossip currently. You will be able to run it if you want, so you can receive shreds from Turbine because it only receives blocks from confirmed blocks from get block calls from RPCs. It does not have any scheduling. It does not keep the tower. It does not try to see like what the current fork choice is. It just receives confirmed blocks, so it reduces a lot of the overhead in terms of ingress and egress. So there are a couple milestones as part of building Mithril, and the first one was to build, the entirety of the SVM in Go. So all syscalls, all native programs. We took advantage of the FireDancer conformance suite to make sure that all the transactions that interact with all these syscalls and native programs actually work. And we were able to, execute in an isolated environment. You could all the tests pass. It was all good. V2 was being able to actually, replay blocks. It was not when we got to milestone 2, it was not as performant. It was just trying to get it out like as an MVP to see if we could actually replay blocks using Mithril. All good. We were able to do it. And today, Mithril is actually able to replay blocks live. Sans the ZK Algamble program, because it has already implemented every program, as of 2 weeks ago, we were able to basically verify a few epochs worth of data at random snapshots that we pulled from GCS and other places, but not currently because we were still making modifications to the Mithril client to include the ZK Algamble program because it was just activated, and there are a few teams that are actually using this both in permissioned and permissionless mode. And also last week, or a couple weeks ago, memory usage was around 100 gigabytes. Now it's like 8 gigabytes and below. So you can really run this on commodity hardware. Here's an example or a snapshot of this running a few days ago. You see that actually I have another example. So here's an actual example of Mithril running now. You see there's a sort of like big CU usage or CPU usage at the beginning. That's when it's starting to unpack the snapshot and actually building the current index of all the accounts. You see that the slot numbers are increasing. Replay time is around 400 to 400 milliseconds. And then RAM usage or memory usage is still consistently under 8 gigs. Sometimes it drops when snapshot unpack, but typically it's under 8 gigs, right? So if you have an M1 or an M2 or an M3 Pro that has like 32, 64 gigs of RAM and like 24 cores, you can just run this on your own commodity hardware, like in your basement or in your mom's basement. There's another example here too, but I can skip it for now. So it's really important. It's both narrative and technologically important to have the ability for you to be able to self-verify your own transactions. Self-sovereignty is really important, right? This is a big portion of the Bitcoin white paper. It's a peer-to-peer self-sovereign system for money, and we shouldn't be in the situation where we have people in the Ethereum ecosystem and others detracting from us because of these high resource requirements. We can build things better. We can build things faster. The IBRL mindset is true and tried, and we're still consistently able to push these development further to be able to do things like this. So currently, we're able to replay all these transactions. The ZK Algamble program, once finished, we'll have documentation for all of you to be able to run this yourself over the next few weeks. And then we'll make it even faster. So one thing that's actually important to note is that Mithril is only using 1 core. So it's 6 cores here, it's using 20%, but it's actually not using every core. It's only using the memory it has today. So there's a lot of fine tuning and a lot of development we can do to make this even faster and to use even less resources. We're also making modifications to the current accounts DB implementation. They built this thing called My Precious DB, sort of a homage to or a nod to Lord of the Rings. But there's just a lot of work to be able to be done here, and we will get to the point where you can run this on a Raspberry Pi, and you'll have some fun laughs when you meet people in the Ethereum ecosystem. There's also this thing that we've built called Overcast, which is a way for you to get shreds from the current mainnet, but without you actually having to partake in getting those shreds from Turbine. So this is a separate node that participates in Gossip, so it can receive shreds from Turbine, builds up a current index, and then you can actually just fetch the data from an Overcast node rather than fetching data or participating in Gossip to get those shreds yourself. As a result of Alpenglow, we also want to reduce the number of nodes that are participating in Gossip, so this lets you do that without every single Mithril node having to participate and being in that shared yes tree. So I'm out of time. Really appreciate you all for coming here. Really appreciate the Overclock team for actually pulling this off. A year or so ago, people were just complaining and nobody was actually doing anything about it. So this is a team that really put their minds to it and we're actually be able to build this. Also, thank you to Richard Patel and Leo. So Mithril was actually built off of a program called, or a set of libraries called Radiance. That was a first implementation or first iteration of what a full node for Solana in Go might look like. And this team was able to take that code and actually push it into production. Thanks to the FireDancer team for their conformance test suite that the Mithril team was able to use. And then Solana Labs and the Yanza team for actually building the first client and getting this into production. That's it. Thank you.